Timelines is probably the most difficult part of financial maths, and it's actually not difficult at all. If your brain can break it down into two separate cases, then you'll manage any question along with a little sketch to help you. So this video is the first of two videos. This video discusses the first scenario, case 1, when you are given a constant interest rate for an extended period of time. Case 2 in the next video, which you must watch today as well, will consider changing interest rates. Anyway, for now, let's deal with deposits and withdrawals from and into an account when the interest rate stays the same. Example 1. If 120,000 Rand is deposited into a savings account and 2 years later a further deposit of 6,000 Rand is added to the savings account, calculate the amount of money in the account at the end of 6 years if the interest rate is 8% per annum compounded annually. Highlight the important information such as I have done in red and convert this information into a sketch. Starting from a time period of now, no time has passed, the present is represented by T0, and you draw a line through however many years you are dealing with. We want to know how much money is in the account at the end of 6 years. So each term number over here, term 1 represents the end of 1 year. Term 2 represents the end of 2 years. So on and so forth until we get to that last bullet above T6, which is the end of 6 years. We want to know how much money lies in the account at the end of 6 years. Let's fill in our deposits. 120,000 Rand is going to be represented by that blue number, and then 6,000 Rand is deposited at the end of 2 years, and that's represented by the green 6,000. 8% interest is what we jot down. Obviously, we know to write that as a decimal, 0.08 in our formulae, and the formula that we use is our good old compound interest formula. Now, because there are 2 deposits into this account, you are going to use this formula twice. One first time will be for the blue 120,000 Rand, and the second time will be for the green 6,000 Rand. Now I've given 120,000 Rand times 1 plus 0.08 because that was the interest rate to the power of 6. Why 6? Because if you count how many hops or how many little bunny jumps or how many years 120,000 Rand lies in the account, we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. That is why the N in this blue rectangle is 6, because 120,000 Rand stayed in the account for 6 years, so we can get a full amount from that figure. However, 2 years later, we added 6,000 Rand. So let's consider 6,000 on its own. If you apply 6,000 Rand to the compound interest formula, you will see that it remained in the account for 1, 2, 3, 4 years in total. And that is why our number N for the compound interest formula for the 6,000 Rand is a 4. This method allows you to plug everything into your calculator in one go and get a beautiful final answer of 198,587 Rand and 85 cents. This is the safest option. It's also the simplest option in terms of writing down your calculations in your book. See how this relatively complicated or long story actually only takes up one line of calculation if you write it all in a row. The 120,000 times the bracket to the power of 6 plus the 6,000 times the bracket to the power of 4. But I am aware of the possibility of using another method, and that would be to calculate the 120,000 rands growth after the first 2 years. Then you add the 6,000 rand to that answer, and then you put that answer into the formula for 4 years. I know that makes sense. If you would like to see that method, please see page 280, method 1. But I am doing to page 280's method 2 in order to help you save time. In these easier, more manageable sections, we want to save time so that in your exam you have more time to spend on the more abstract sections such as functions. Are we ready for a second example? 80,000 rand is deposited into a savings account, and 18 months later 4,000 rand is withdrawn from the account. Now 4,000 rand being a withdrawal will have to be represented by a negative number. Withdrawals are always subtracted from the total amount. So calculate the amount of money in the savings account at the end of the 4 years if interest rate is 11% compounded annually. So we deal with this question exactly the same way as we dealt with example 1. However, 4,000 rand will now have a minus in front of it. And since we are dealing with annual compound interest, in other words, we're dealing with numbers of years for our n in our formula, we need to convert 18 months into a number of years. So you must realize that 18 months is 1,5 years. Now let's make our sketch. 80,000 rand in blue represents the deposit, and then you're allowed to chop your years in half. If you have a look, T1 represents 1 year later, so there where the negative 4,000 rand is in purple, we've got 1.5 years later, 18 months later, we withdrew 4,000 rand. The interest rate is 11% for all 4 years, and now we are ready to apply our compound interest formula. How many times will we apply this formula? Twice. Once for the blue 80,000 rand and once for the purple 4,000 rand with a negative. So if we consider the 80,000 rand and how many years in total it lay in the account, we can count the bunny hops again. 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Hence the exponent, the power, the number replacing the letter n is 4. Then we do the exact same thing for the 4,000 rand, which was in the account for a certain number of years. However, we have a negative in front of the formulae to realize that we are subtracting 4,000 rand as well as its interest that it may have accumulated should you never have subtracted 4,000 rand. That is why we still apply the 4,000 rand to the compound interest formula. Yes, we actually withdrew it, but if you never withdrew it, it would have gained interest. So we need to account for that interest, and that's why the 4,000 rand is still multiplied by 1 plus 0.11 because of 11% interest raised to the power of, in this case, it's now 2.5, because if we count the bunny hops, that tiny little orange hop represents half a year, 1 full year, another full year. So in total there are 2.5 years attached to the 4,000 rand withdrawal. Now you have the opportunity to plug all of this into your calculator, and voila, we get a total of 116,253 rand and 24 cents at the end of 4 years. So even though you withdrew from the account, fortunately, owing to the beauty of compound interest, that 80,000 rand still grew to be quite a substantial amount.